So this is my Cutlery Keychain. It is a way of holding keys, mostly because when I tried to put it on with my keys, it was this size plus this size again and was massive. It has chopsticks. It has a fork. It has a spoon. It's easier to put them on like this through the phone. And it has a butter knife. The butter knife goes on this way. The fork is for eating things you would eat with a fork. The spoon is for eating things you would eat with the spoon. And the butter knife is for doing things you would do with a butter knife. And then when you're not using anything, you put them all in here in this case. Put them all in the case. And the case goes back onto a belt loop. Right? You can open it up, put the belt loop through there, put that back in, and it hangs like that. Right? Now you can grab the chopsticks, which are the most useful because precise grabbing, or you can grab any of these utensil heads and use them, and you can eat with them. It is a bit different than normal eating, because normally when you use a utensil, get in there. Normally when you use a utensil, like say a spoon, you would hold it like this and scoop things up and bring it to your mouth like that. But with this, if you're wearing it, you kind of, it's better to scoop away from yourself, right? So like this or like this, right? This is an unnatural motion, so this is the way to scoop things, like this. But it's very easy to learn to do that. In fact, you don't have to learn to do that. This is just a natural way of using this particular device. It's a bit different, but it works. With the fork, if you want to eat like spaghetti or something, right? You gotta twirl with spaghetti. You gotta twirl the spaghetti onto the thing, or onto the fork. So what I do is I put a finger through one of these holes, right? And I just spin it like that, and then that'll twirl it up onto the fork. And with the butter knife, actually, I use this very infrequently. I use the butter knife very infrequently because I don't eat a lot of things that require me to use the butter knife. It can cut through like a processed chicken patty, right? Like a Tyson breaded chicken patty for a sandwich. It can cut through at least that. Probably a correctly cooked steak, I suppose. The ones that, probably a soft piece of meat. Yeah, it can probably cut through most soft pieces of meat. And it can definitely get through butter. And to spread things, right? To spread things, right, it would be easier to go this way than this way, but you could go both ways. But I've used this very infrequently. And so that's how it works. I've got this here thing. This is a different mechanism than a normal carabiner for keys would use because of the way that this works and the way that normal carabiners work. If this is going to work off of its own flexing, right, then I need something more secure than essentially that, right? You know how like you've got the two ends and then the thing goes into the two sides? I need something more secure than that if it's gonna be just the flex of the plastic, and this is that. This is honestly better than a normal carabiner if it weren't for the fact that plastic can be cut more easily than metal. So yeah, that's this cutlery keychain. The way I made it so that I made it more printable or easier to print by making it this side smaller. So you have to put the butter knife there, and then in order for everything to fit properly, you got to put the spoon in the middle, and then the fork goes on the other end, on the opposite side to the butter knife. And then, yeah, this broke. I can print a new one, or I can melt this back on. And then you put the chopsticks in this slot, and the chopsticks get their own slot because they're used more frequently. So much more frequently that it kind of justifies them having their own slot. So yeah, this is my cutlery keychain. It's pretty nice. I have been using it for a week. That's why I know to scoop away from, to be scooping away from myself when I use it to scoop things. Right? The butter knife, right? Again, to scoop away from yourself, you would go kind of like if I was holding this, right? Like that, right? You would dip into whatever you're trying, like say I'm getting peanut butter, I would dip into the peanut butter like this and then do that. Yeah. If I was going to improve on this, I would actually make the change of making the fork more pointy, because this works. It'll stick into a hunk of meat or a piece of bread or whatever because it is pointy from this angle, but it's round at this angle, and so there are some edge cases where it's kind of hard to stick into things, especially if I'm scooping at this angle. If I'm trying to get it at this angle, I tend to go more like this angle, and that works. So if I were to improve this, I'd make this profile here more pointy, because it's pointy enough to get most things, but not pointy enough to get everything. The spoon I love how the spoon is. It's probably the most comfortable of the three heads here to use. The chopsticks I could improve by actually making them the same size. The right side is thinner on the end than the left side, which means that there is an orientation to these when you put them in. It would be better if that orientation wasn't there, if there was no orientation and it just, you could go this way or this way, but at the moment you can only go this way. But this is good enough and works just fine, so it's good here. And another thing I would improve if I was to continue from here, but I'm not going to continue it from here. This is, if I was to do this again, I would make these teeth, if I can focus it, this stupid smartphone, anyways, I would make the teeth maybe a little bit bigger or something, make it easier to clean the teeth, because the teeth are good for grabbing things. but you gotta like really get in there to clean them. But other than that, this works incredibly well. I have no idea how this broke, by the way. This is like 3 or 4 weeks old, and this is broken at this point already. I think I bent my fingers weird while using it. Or you know what? I did drop it. It probably is from being dropped. Anyways, this works incredibly well for what it is. And then one last improvement I would make is for my pants, the carabiner half of the Cutlery Keychain is actually on the wrong side. It should be kind of on this side. Yes, it should be more or less on this side, going up like this, because this and here, the slot for the chopsticks pokes in more, especially if I have them in this orientation. I have to have them in this orientation if I want them to face, if I want this to face me, right? Because these ends get pokey. But, and then, so I have to face it this way, and then that puts this in a really awkward spot in relation to my pocket. I like to keep my keys in my pocket, even though they're on my belt loop. I like to put them in my pocket so that they don't jiggle and rattle. So like if I was to do this again, I would move this part over to this side so that I could have so that like this line would be here, right? And then that would put it in a better spot relative to my pocket. But this works supremely well. This is extremely good for my first attempt at portable cutlery, which doesn't even need to exist because a spoon and a fork and a butter knife already all fit in your pocket. So this doesn't need to exist. There's no reason for this to exist. Maybe the chopsticks, because normal chopsticks are pretty long, but like these are portable for being short, so, and normal chopsticks are long for a reason. But this is my Cutlery Keychain. I do actually carry this around with my keys on it. It does actually work to hold keys, and I have not lost anything. It seems insecure to carry these like this, just sticking out like that, because it seems like they'd fall out, but they don't. This would, because this is too loose. That's another thing I would do differently if I did this again. But this works very, very, very well. This is really good for what started off as a joke, to be honest. Right? I saw a YouTube video where there was a portable cutlery set, and I thought, let me make that even more portable. And this is as good as, like, this entire thing, this entire setup fits in my hand. That is so cool. So yeah, this is my Cutlery Keychain. It is nice to have.